lovely people, it's Nicole, and the BookTubeAthon is officially over for 2017. I had a lot of fun this week, read a ton. So today I thought I would run down with you guys what I read this week for my BookTubeAthon wrap up. So the first book I read is Hold Me Closer, Necromancer by Lish McBride, and this fulfilled my read a book in one day. This was so much fun. It's very dark but has this great sense of humor. I mean, it's about necromancers, so like you're dealing with the dead a lot and there's like torture and like people being trapped in cages and it gets dark. But it's super funny. It has this great sense of humor about all of it, and the characters, I would have maybe liked a little bit more character development and like relationship development, but there was enough to keep me engaged with them and to make me emotionally attached. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars. Then I read Lucky in Love by Casey West, and this was my read a book entirely outside challenge, and this was adorable. I mean, it's Casey West, which like everything Casey West does is absolutely adorable, and this was no different. I loved the main love interest. He was super cute. It reminded me a little bit of Windfall by Jennifer E. Smith, which came out earlier this year, which has sort of a similar premise in that in this one the main character wins the lottery, and in the other one the main character's best friend, who she's in love with, wins the lottery. So it's sort of the opposite perspective on it, which is interesting, and I really enjoyed reading the sort of flipped version. And of course, just as everything Casey West writes, it was fun and fluffy and adorable, and I gave it 4 stars. Then I read Poison's Kiss by Brianna Shields, and I enjoyed this. I didn't absolutely love it. It didn't really stand out to me, but it was definitely an enjoyable read and a really cool sort of a little bit on the dark side fantasy. I like that it's based in actual real things from mythology. I'm a little wary of the fact that it's based on things from an Indian mythology and Brianna Shields is white. That's something that I'm not really in a position to say like this is wrong or this is bad. I don't know what happened on her side. I don't know who she talked to. I don't know what research she did. It's just something that I'm aware of. But I liked the romance. I liked the main character's relationship with her little brother, and I do think I will be reading the sequel when it comes out. I ended up giving this 3.75 stars. Then I started and actually ended up DNFing The Elected by Rory Shea, and I DNF'd this not because I didn't like it. I will say that I am wary of the fact that it's written by a cis person and about a cis main character, but the narrative is very much a queer narrative and very much a trans narrative. Again, I don't know what happened behind the scenes. I don't know if she had any sensitivity readers or who she talked to for research or anything. It's just something that I'm wary of. I did meet her along with a bunch of these other authors in person, and she's super sweet. But the main reason I actually ended up DNFing this was that it gave me a similar feeling when I read The Handmaid's Tale. And what I mean by this is, when I read The Handmaid's Tale, the way that women were treated, the gender relations, made me really deeply uncomfortable and affected me in a way that I would not have finished it if it were not for the fact that I had to read it for a class. And again, that's not a comment on the quality of the book. It's a phenomenal book. It just messed with my mental health a lot, and that was a really hard section of the class for me, and I noticed that I was getting similar feelings from this, and I didn't really want to put myself through that mentally again. I might pick it up again when I'm in sort of a better mental health place, because like I said, the author is super sweet, and I do think the concept is intriguing. And then after that, I needed something kind of fluffy and fun and that I knew I would enjoy, and so I picked up Runaways, the complete collection, volume 3, and I don't know if necessarily fluffy is the right word for this, but it's definitely fun. I absolutely love Runaways, and this one was no different. There were some really cool crossovers with the Young Avengers, which I didn't know about going into this, so I got to see some of my faves from Young Avengers, and I just had a lot of fun reading this. It tied in to some of the big Marvel events that I've heard about but haven't actually read anything from, just because they're big and they seem like a lot of work to keep up with. But we did get little glimpses of Civil War and the Secret Invasion, which was kind of fun. And of course, I love all these characters so much. I'm just having so much fun watching these kids grow up and evolve and change. I love seeing Carolina with her girlfriend. It's just so much fun. and I love this series so much. And this was my book with a person on the cover. So I ended up giving this one 4.5 stars. Then I read The Wicked and the Just by J. Anderson Coates, and this was a little out of my comfort zone. I don't read a lot of historical fiction, but this was really, really interesting. This takes place in medieval times. I haven't read anything in that era, so it was really cool to read about a time period I didn't know very much about, and apparently it's all based on real events. The main characters are fictional, but the events that occur in the novel are true, which is really cool. The plot was a little bit on the slow side for my taste, but that's not so much a comment on like quality of book as just my personal reading taste. I think it was really well written. I could tell what it was trying to do, and I think it achieved that wonderfully. I think the characters were really well written. There was a great slow build of tension that was very subtle. The only thing was that I tend to like my books a little bit more fast-paced and a little less subtle. So really my main issues were just personal preference with this. I ended up giving it 3 stars. Then I read 1,000 Pieces of You by Claudia Gray, and this was my book I got because of the cover. I've had this book sitting on my shelf for like 2 years, and I'm just now picking it up. And I was very pleasantly surprised reading this. I expected it to be just kind of entertainingly mediocre going in, but it was a lot of fun. It was engaging and fast-paced, and I loved the romance aspect. The dimensional travel was so much fun. I love books like that. And I just really, really, really enjoyed this, more than I thought I would, and I'm very excited to read the next one. I ended up giving this 4 stars. Then I read All American Boys by Jason Reynolds and Brendan Keeley. Like, holy shit, this book it's a lot, like emotionally. I mean, the main theme of the book is talking about police brutality and race relations. I thought it was really interesting to have the points of view both from the black kid who was assaulted and from a white kid who's sort of on the outside and dealing with his own internalized prejudice and realizing that. It gives a really interesting sort of contrast of perspective that I thought was really effective. This was so well written, so emotionally packed. I just think this was absolutely incredible, and I definitely recommend it, and I ended up giving it 5 stars. And this was my book about someone who is different than you. Then I read The Body Finder by Kimberly Derding, and this was just kind of a fun paranormal romance. The love interest was a bit on the protective side for my taste. I wanted him just kind of take a step back. I just feel like you've known her your entire life. Why don't you trust her to take care of herself? Like, she doesn't need you babysitting her all the time. Like, I get that you're concerned, but you can just take a step back. But I did enjoy the sort of paranormal aspect of this. The serial killer aspect was, I don't want to say fun, because like serial killers, but it was definitely interesting to read about. I ended up giving this 3 stars. And then I read Amulet by Kazu Kibushi. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. And this was my hyped book. I've heard so much awesome things about this series, so I thought I finally needed to pick it up for myself, and I enjoyed this. It was definitely sort of an introductory type thing. Felt like we were just getting into the story. Not a lot of the actual story had happened. We were just sort of setting things up. But it was definitely interesting. The art style is really cool and pretty. A little bit kind of cartoony, but in a cool way. And I like the contrast between the fairly simply drawn characters and the super elaborate, gorgeous backgrounds. So yeah, this was interesting, and I'm definitely interested in reading more. I ended up giving it 4 stars. Then I just started The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, Squirrel Meets World by Shannon Hale and Dean Hale, and unfortunately I only got 50 pages into this, so I did not finish this for the BookTubeAthon, but I am really enjoying this. It's a lot of fun, and it's cool to see sort of a younger version of Doreen. So those are all the books I read for the BookTubeAthon. In total, I finished 9 books, which completes the last challenge, read 7 books. And I had so much fun this week. I hope you guys did too. Let me know how you guys did this week in the comments. I love you, and I will see you later.